Okay, let's unpack this. Because the mission of our deep dive into the source material today is to really track the evolution of persuasion.
Right.
We're setting out to understand why certain messages just stick with us for years, like why a specific commercial jingle from your childhood is still, permanently wired into your brain.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And really why human attention has genuinely become the most heavily contested, most valuable resource on Earth.
Hmm.
And the central premise here challenges a very basic assumption that I think most of us hold, which is that advertising is just, well, the business of selling things.
Yeah, and the foundational insight let out in the research flips that completely.
Right.
It says advertising isn't about selling products at all. It is entirely about understanding people.
Wow.
Yeah. To engineer a message that bypasses a consumer's natural skepticism, you have to decode human psychology.
You have to know how they tick.
Exactly. You have to understand what drives an individual, what their underlying insecurities are, and what makes them feel secure or successful in their social hierarchy.
Which feels, incredibly relevant given the sheer density of the information landscape we navigate today.
No, for sure.
The sources highlight that the average person is bombarded by thousands of targeted messages every single day.
Thousands. It's wild.
Thousands. We are constantly being told what to buy, what political narrative to believe, or what kind of lifestyle we should be aspiring to achieve.
Right.
And yet the vast majority of these messages they evaporate from our working memory within seconds.
Mm-hmm.
The filter our brain applies is exceptionally ruthless. So to understand the origin of that filter, the research asks us to trace this back 4,000 years.
Way back.
Right, to the busy marketplaces of ancient civilization. So Egypt, Greece, Rome, India, China, we have to essentially strip away all the digital billboards and the smartphones.
Yeah, you really have to imagine a profoundly chaotic sensory environment.
Right.
Because ancient merchants were dealing with an extreme density of physical commerce without any technological leverage whatsoever.
And no microphones.
Exactly. They relied on pure, unassisted human persuasion. So they displayed goods using highly recognizable visual symbols and painted signs.
Because people couldn't read, right?
Right. Large portions of the population simply could not read. So a picture of a loaf of bread or a horseshoe was essential. And to cut through the ambient noise of a crowded bazaar, they leaned heavily on town criers.
Oh, right.
These were professionals whose sole function was to stand in public squares and just physically project their voices over the crowd to announce goods, arriving cargo, and official services.
I was really struck by the mechanics of that because it operates exactly like a primitive version of search engine optimization.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. Like ancient town criers and brightly painted wooden signs were just ancient SEO.
Yeah.
Because in a modern digital context, standing out means, gaming an algorithm to rank on the first page of search results.
Right, right.
But in a Roman marketplace, ranking on the first page just meant you hired the guy with the most booming, resonant voice.
The loudest guy wins.
Exactly. Or you spent extra money on the brightest, most expensive lapis lazuli pigment for your sign.
Mm-hmm.
And it proves a somewhat uncomfortable rule about commerce that the sources emphasize, which is the best product, doesn't always win.
No, it doesn't.
The product that people actually notice is the one that wins.
Yeah, the asymmetry of attention has always existed.
Mm-hmm.
Quality alone just cannot compensate for invisibility.
Right.
Like a blacksmith in antiquity might have forged the most durable swords in the entire empire,
But nobody sees his shop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If he couldn't capture the buyer's eye before the merchant 3 stalls down, his metallurgical skill was irrelevant.
Wow.
So the foundational goals of a modern marketing campaign, breaking through environmental noise, lodging a concept in a consumer's memory, and establishing a baseline of trust, those were entirely present in those ancient squares.
But there is a hard biological ceiling on a town crier, right?
Sure.
You can only shout so loud, and your voice only travels so far. So if the ancient world mapped out the basic psychology of local persuasion, they eventually hit a bottleneck of physics. To scale influence, civilization needed a mechanism to separate the message from the physical human body.
Right.
And that barrier shatters in the mid-15th century with Johannes Gutenberg's movable type printing press.
Yeah, and the shift from local to scalable persuasion completely alters the trajectory of global commerce.
Huge.
Suddenly, a merchant's pitch could reach 10,000 people across different cities simultaneously without the merchant ever needing to leave their counting house.
Right.
We saw the birth of accessible books, the spread of revolutionary political pamphlets, and the emergence of early newspapers, and commerce just rode the coattails of that intellectual expansion.
Of course.
As literacy rates slowly climbed across Europe, printed advertisements evolved. They moved beyond simple inventory announcements, like a sign just saying wheat available,
Right.
into strategic copywriting that emphasized scarcity, competitive pricing, and the reputation of the seller.
Yet the true catalyst that turned scalable messaging into modern advertising was the Industrial Revolution.
Absolutely.
Because before mechanized factories, the primary headache for any enterprise was simply manufacturing the goods. Production was the constraint. Like, a cobbler could only make a few pairs of shoes a week, but once steam power and assembly lines arrived, facilities could churn out immense quantities of goods at unprecedented speeds.
Oh, yeah. Massive output.
So the core problem of business inverted almost overnight. Manufacturing the product was no longer the challenge. The new existential threat was figuring out how to sell a warehouse full of inventory before the competitor down the street did.
And this inversion creates a psychological puzzle that the research refers to as the soap dilemma.
Yes, the soap dilemma. I loved this part.
It's so interesting. So before industrialization, soap was a generic utilitarian commodity. You bought a nameless chunk of boiled animal fat and lye from the local grocer based purely on weight.
Right. Just a block of fat.
Exactly. But fast forward to the late 19th century, and you suddenly have 10 massive factories, all outputting millions of perfectly identical, chemically indistinguishable bars of soap.
I found that to be a massive light bulb moment in the source material. When a market is flooded with identical commodities, the physical product effectively stops mattering.
Right.
Because if all 10 soaps clean dirt equally well, a customer has zero logical reason to choose factory A over factory B.
None at all.
So to avoid going bankrupt, these companies realized they couldn't just sell the physical utility of soap anymore.
Right.
They had to invent packaging, distinct logos, catchy slogans, and fictional brand personas. They had to shift from selling a cleaning tool to selling an identity.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how this crisis of overproduction forged an entirely new, highly sophisticated profession.
Really?
Yeah, by the early 20th century, corporate boardrooms weren't just filled with accountants and supply chain managers anymore.
Who were they hiring?
They were hiring novelists, fine artists, and actual behavioral psychologists. Their objective was to reverse engineer human decision-making. And the consensus they reached radically changed society. They realized human beings rarely, if ever, make purchasing decisions based on rational analysis or empirical facts.
Never.
Right. We navigate the world through narrative. We respond to emotional triggers like our fear of social ostracization, our desire for romantic success, our need for maternal security.
And that psychological pivot makes total sense when you map it onto modern consumer behavior. I mean, buying a branded product shifted into something resembling wearing a vintage band t-shirt.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Yeah, like when you spend $40 on a t-shirt for a punk band, you are absolutely not paying for the raw cotton and thread.
No.
You are paying for the social signaling, you are communicating your cultural taste, and buying the feeling of belonging to a specific exclusive tribe. So a bar of soap, a specific make of automobile, a stylized cup of coffee, they all transformed into external markers of internal identity. Advertisements stopped describing the horsepower of a car and started cultivating a deep desire for the glamorous, liberated lifestyle that the car supposedly unlocked.
Yeah, building brand loyalty long before a consumer ever walked into a retail environment became the absolute gold standard.
Right.
And this ushered in the golden age of mass media, the era of dominant national newspapers, primetime radio, and broadcast television.
Right, the big platforms.
Right. But for all its cultural influence, the broadcast model contained a massive structural inefficiency. It was entirely predicated on information asymmetry.
It was a blunt instrument approach.
Very blunt.
Like you buy a 30-second commercial slot during a massive television event and you blast that single message out to 20 million people. The brand is essentially crossing its fingers, hoping that a tiny fraction of that vast audience actually happens to be in the market for a minivan at that specific moment.
Right. It's a huge gamble.
It was culturally unifying, sure, but financially it involved paying to show ads to millions of people who had zero utility for the product.
Yeah, and the digital revolution completely collapsed that broadcast formula. The internet shifted the foundational architecture of advertising from broadcasting to micro-targeting.
Okay.
And the mechanism that enabled this transition was the systematic harvesting of behavioral data.
And this is where we transition from mass media to personalized media, because the sources detail how every single interaction with a screen leaves a digital footprint.
Every single one.
We aren't just talking about explicitly typing, I want to buy a minivan into a search bar. The algorithms are building psychographic profiles based on microhabits. They track how long your thumb hovers over a video before scrolling, geolocation data, shifts in your sleeping patterns, or the sudden purchase of unscented lotion.
Right.
And the system can connect these seemingly unrelated behavioral dots to predict that a user is likely expecting a child and serve them that minivan advertisement with terrifying precision.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the efficiency of that targeting gave rise to the broader concept of the attention economy.
Right.
Because in an environment defined by information abundance, human attention becomes the ultimate scarcity.
Wow.
Every push notification, every breaking news alert, every algorithmic feed is engineered to extract one finite resource, and that's your time.
Because time is money.
Exactly. In digital ecosystems, user time is the direct proxy for corporate revenue. The longer a platform can hold your gaze, the more highly targeted micro-advertisements they can serve you, and the more valuable their real estate becomes.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The tech platforms eventually realized that consumers were developing banner blindness.
Oh yeah, we just tuned it out.
Right. We biologically adapted to ignore the margins of websites where ads traditionally lived. So the industry adapted by fundamentally erasing the boundary between the advertisement and the organic content. They changed the messenger. Enter the influencer and the creator economy.
Yeah, and it is a profound manipulation of human evolutionary biology.
How so?
Well, our brains evolved to operate in small, tight-knit tribes. So when a user watches a creator speaking directly into a camera in an unedited casual vlog format week after week, the brain's cognitive architecture registers that creator as a trusted physical peer.
Wow.
This phenomenon is known as a parasocial relationship. It is a deeply felt, one-sided psychological bond.
And that bond completely bypasses our mental ad blockers.
Absolutely.
When a traditional, slickly produced television commercial comes on, our defenses immediately go up. We know we're being sold to, so we apply cognitive friction.
Right.
But when an advertisement is naturally woven into a podcast segment by a host you listen to every morning, or seamlessly integrated into a makeup tutorial by a creator you admire, it doesn't process as a sales pitch.
Not at all.
It feels exactly like a friend giving you a helpful life hack. The traditional barriers of skepticism just dissolve.
Yeah, and if we connect this to the bigger picture, this level of algorithmic targeting and seamless integration creates unprecedented economic efficiency, sure, but it also sits at the center of ongoing global debates.
The political stuff.
Right. Sociologists, legislators, and technologists are currently locked in complex discussions regarding data privacy, corporate transparency, and the ethics of surveillance capitalism.
And the sources present arguments from all sides on this?
Exactly. We're just looking at the facts presented. And the fact is there is a deep, unresolved tension between the convenience of a perfectly personalized digital experience and the sheer volume of personal data that must be extracted to render that reality.
Right.
It is a debate about the balance of technological innovation and fundamental privacy rights, with compelling arguments on multiple sides.
And the speed of that innovation is staggering. The sources point out that we have moved entirely away from the old model, where creating an advertising campaign took 6 months of focus groups and magazine printing.
Oh, that's ancient history now.
Right. We are now in the era of real-time agility. Brands employ social listening tools to detect a viral meme or a cultural moment, and they can inject a highly produced, culturally relevant advertisement into the global feed within minutes.
Yeah.
They capitalize on the momentum of where human attention is already heavily concentrated.
And the engine driving that real-time capability, the frontier that is fundamentally rewiring the entire industry, is artificial intelligence.
AI.
Yeah, AI doesn't just accelerate the existing processes. It operates on a scale of complexity that human marketers literally cannot physically match.
The mechanics of how AI executes this are mind-bending. Instead of a marketing team debating between 2 different images for a digital ad, an AI system utilizes dynamic creative optimization. It can generate thousands of distinct variations of a single advertisement in milliseconds.
Thousands.
Thousands. It deploys A/B testing on a microscale, analyzing oceans of data to discover that, say, males between the ages of 25 and 30 are 4% more likely to click on a specific shade of teal if the weather in their local zip code happens to be raining.
It's incredibly specific.
And it adjusts the copy, the imagery, and the timing instantaneously.
Yet, despite the staggering computational power of these multi-armed bandit algorithms, the core thesis of the research remains fixed. The tools of delivery are evolving at light speed, but the target of those tools, the human mind, has not changed in millennia.
We're still the same.
Exactly. We are still fundamentally driven by the same evolutionary imperatives that guided us in ancient marketplaces.
I keep returning to that incredible paradox. We have engineered the most advanced, mathematically complex supercomputers in human history, machines capable of processing petabytes of data,
Right.
and we are pointing them directly at our primitive reptilian brains.
Yes. Wild.
The pinnacle of human engineering is currently being utilized to perfectly calibrate what combination of pixels will trigger a fleeting sense of nostalgia, or isolate the exact phrasing that will activate our deeply rooted fear of missing out.
Yeah, and recognizing that paradox really shatters the illusion of immunity.
What do you mean by that?
Well, every generation harbors this vanity that they are somehow too savvy, too media literate to be influenced by advertising.
Oh, right, like ads don't work on me.
Exactly. We fiercely guard our sense of autonomy, believing that our desires are entirely organic. But the sources articulate a very nuanced reality. Advertising rarely functions as direct mind control.
Right.
It doesn't force you to pull out your credit card at gunpoint. Instead, it subtly shapes the architecture of your choices. It alters the environment in which your decisions are made.
It's essentially dictating the menu of options you perceive before you even realize you are hungry.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, the most successful modern campaigns aren't asking analytical questions about how to move units of inventory. They're asking psychological questions.
Right. They want to know what emotional void they can temporarily fill. They're trying to bypass the logical prefrontal cortex and embed themselves directly into the emotional centers of the brain, competing to become an intuitive daily habit.
And as artificial intelligence continues to refine its predictive capabilities, the future of this industry will not look like the screaming neon cyberpunk billboards of science fiction.
Right, it's not going to be like that.
No, the most effective persuasion of the future will be virtually silent. It will be seamlessly integrated into our digital environments, anticipating our friction points and offering solutions so perfectly timed that they won't register as interruptions at all.
Wow.
They will simply feel like helpful, serendipitous recommendations.
So what does this all mean for the person listening to this right now? If we trace the through line from the booming voice of the ancient town crier all the way to the silent, invisible calculations of a predictive algorithm, the fundamental objective hasn't shifted an inch.
No, it hasn't. The goal is always to command attention, establish a baseline of trust, and shape behavior. The ultimate takeaway from the source material is that attention is definitively our most vital resource.
Absolutely.
Unlike money or physical assets, time is strictly linear and entirely non-renewable. Every fraction of a second we give away to a screen is gone forever.
Which is heavy. But this raises an important question about our posture toward modern media. Because the research does not suggest that advertising is an inherently malicious force that needs to be eradicated.
No, it's not evil.
Advertising is a neutral mechanism. It is the economic engine that subsidizes global journalism, funds the entertainment we consume, and keeps educational platforms free of charge.
Right.
It provides crucial visibility for small businesses and accelerates market innovation.
So the objective isn't to retreat into complete cynicism or like completely disconnect from the digital grid. The objective is situational awareness.
Exactly that. It is about actively cultivating critical thinking. Once you comprehend the underlying mechanics of how your attention is being monetized, once you can look at a piece of sponsored content and identify the specific psychological levers it is attempting to pull, you transition from a passive consumer to an active evaluator.
You demystify the magic trick.
Yes, precisely. By understanding the machinery of influence, you retain sovereignty over your own awareness.
Because the reality is, if you choose not to intentionally direct your own attention, there are multi-billion-dollar algorithmic infrastructures running 24 hours a day that are more than happy to direct it for you.
For sure.
It brings us right back to that invisible vault we started with. The resource is intangible, but the stakes are incredibly high. We have to be the ones standing guard at the door of our own cognition.
And as we watch these systems approach perfect predictive accuracy, It leaves us with a rather profound philosophical puzzle. Yeah, if the targeted ecosystems of tomorrow become so sophisticated, so deeply interwoven into our daily lives, that they know what we're going to desire before we consciously register the thought ourselves, well, will we eventually lose the ability to distinguish our own organic, authentic desires from the ones that were subtly